So welcome to Mike's Podcast Club, the global community for indie podcasters that exists to do one simple thing. We exist to help each other make brilliant podcasts. So we've got with us today Paul Bavill from History of Rage podcast. He's a long-time Mike's Podcast Club member, and he is very gracious every week in sharing his wisdom. So he'll share templates with people. He'll jump on calls with people. So we were like, "Do you want to share more wisdom?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'll share more wisdom." So this session is all about. It's a rare look, a peek behind the curtain. Hello. Of an indie podcaster's workflow and how Paul stays an astonishing 3 months ahead of schedule. It's quite, I said rare before, it's quite a rare thing that we see this from indie podcasters. We see what they're doing behind the scenes. And if you've got a question for Paul, you're watching this and you think, I've got a question for Paul. If you're watching this live, by the way, then pop your questions in chat, just put hashtag Paul, and we'll get to the questions at the end as well. So I'm not going to wang on any longer. Let's hear from Paul himself, shall we?
Hello, all. So, those of you that are not sick of the sight of me and sound of me already, but clearly are not because you've come to this, a couple of you aside. So, yeah, Charles and Vic approached me when it became apparent just how far ahead of my workflow I actually am. And I'm afraid I'm going to make a little bit of a liar out of Vic at the moment because right at the time of recording, I am not 3 months ahead. I am 6 weeks ahead because I've just had a festival where I recorded 8 additional episodes, each of them inside of like a 3 day period. So all the stuff of the regular got kind of shoved back, but I'm still pretty ahead. So to kind of kick off, first of all, with the sort of behind the scenes, because I know Vic has a real love of my spreadsheets. So I'm going to kick over to the first one and share the screen accordingly. So first of all, we're looking at this is my master spreadsheet. I absolutely love this. So I'm going to just shift that out of the way. Then going up and down here, basically, this is every episode of History Rage that I've ever done, right from the word go. So straight as soon as I've got a guest book, in goes the recording date down this column at the side, who the guest is, what the general subject is, which period of history it's covering. And then if I draw your attention to the big green blocks over here, okay, this is broadly speaking every major task that I need to do with a podcast episode. Send out my brief. Those of you that have seen my brief that goes out to guests, I've got that on a pre-written template. I can just copy that into an email, change the name on it, change the time, and then go, and off it's going. That'll contain the Riverside link. It contains all the rules, contains all the questions that I'm going to ask them, and it contains my phone number as well should they completely screw it up and need to phone me and get talked into it. So brief, questions designed, have I got a promo photo? And those are the big three that I'll do before I record anything. So if we come down to like the later ones that I've got here, this is the season I'm currently working on. And what you can see is that I've sent the brief to all these people. I've sent the questions to all these people. I've got photographs back from all of these people and some of the ones going beforehand. And then here I've got VTs, so need to do audiograms, Instagram reels, quotes pulled out of the episode, and of course the much coveted, have I designed the History Rage mug? And as I go down those, I color code them. And then finally, I've got my Patreon release date and Apple subscription release date, roughly 3 months early, and my public release date. And I keep it in that order. So if anybody gets in touch with me and goes, when's this episode going out? I can go, okay, yeah, it's on that date, with that date for this and this date for that. Color coding system is a system is for basically red. I have recorded it, but I haven't done jack all else with it. Yellow is I have edited it through Audacity, but I haven't done anything else with it yet. Orange is I have run that through Auphonic, and I will come to Auphonic later, so it's kind of got release ready sound at that point. And green is I have uploaded it to all the relevant platforms that it's going to get uploaded to. And that I just keep that as being an easy way of kind of identifying really what are the outstanding episodes that still need completing.
Paul, I'm going to
Yeah.
dip in here. So the 20th of October one that's currently red,
Yeah.
No, let's go with the 22nd of September one that's currently yellow.
Yeah.
Um, that's everything's been done on that. That's ready to put through Auphonic, which we're going to go on to in a bit. So that episode's coming out on the 22nd of September, right?
No, that episode's coming out on the 30th of June. It
For
needs to be
the
ready by the
Patreon,
30th
yeah,
of
it needs to be
June.
ready but
Yeah.
for public, it's so you are technically 4 months ahead, really.
I mean, theoretically, yeah, but I do my deadline date is always the first release because it's exactly the same episode that goes out
Yeah.
three months later after that.
And so
But
just
yes, you
explain
can be
that mug
comfortable with
thing.
being right.
Yeah.
So, all my Patreon subscribers, okay, if you're a £5 History Rager after you've been in for 5 months, then you get the coveted History Rage mug, which is a mug with of your choice. And if I can just let me just stop sharing for a moment so I can switch my camera on. However, if you get a mug of your choice. I've got the travel mug version with a History Rage of your own choice on there. And that comes free after your 5th month. So for every episode, I need to have designed the History Rage mug that goes along with it, just in case somebody comes up and decides that they're going to have that episode as their favorite.
Wow. Okay.
So going back to the spreadsheet, that gives me a good idea of kind of like where I am and how much work I've got ahead, but it's not really an indicator of what the hell I need to be doing next. And as you will all know, trying to work out all the various plates that you've got to spin when you're doing multiple episodes. And I, on average, do 2 episodes a week. I do about 100 a year. So I have a lot going through. So this is where the workflow comes in. Now, the workflow is less impressive because it really is just a list. But what I'll do with whenever I've got a guest that I've booked in, they will go on the main spreadsheet, at which point I know when they're going to be released and I know when they're recording them. So I can work all my other dates around that. So for ease, these are all the tasks that I've got to do with regards to sorting an episode out and get it up. Basically create the questions, actually record it, edit it, do the show notes and the upload, pull out the quotes, do all the social media posts, do all the VTs and reels. I assign each one of those a deadline date. So usually I know the recording date because I've chosen it and I know the release date. I go a week before the release date. At least I want all those done. Okay. And a week before the recording date, I want the questions done. Copy those dates across into there. And then really, once I've built that list, I just sort that into date order. And what it tells me is what my next job is. So I don't really sort of look at my main spreadsheet and go, I still need to do that, that, and that. I just look at this, see what's on the top. In fact, I can actually just delete one of those out now because I did that last night. So I now know that the next thing that I've got to do is write the questions for Paul Beaver's interview. I need those done by tomorrow. Can't do that yet because he hasn't actually told me what he wants to rage about. So after tomorrow, that will turn red. 16th, I've got a recording. This has got a deadline of being released by the end of the week because it was a live stream. So over the course of the weekend, I'm going to get all that done in the day and then move on like so. This has changed my life and has stopped me reaching that point where I go, shit, I have forgotten to do the thing, because all of the things are on there and they're in that list. And let's say sort out in date order. Doesn't matter how far ahead you get, just go down that list and work. I ask myself the question, can I do that right now? Can that be my next job? So that I can't do yet because he hasn't sent me his rage. That I can't do yet because it's a recording. It's booked for Friday. So the next thing I do is I pull up Audacity and I start to edit the Ian McGregor episode. And then once I've done that, recordings, questions, I tend to leave until a week before because otherwise my guest forgets about the whole appointment. So before I recorded that yesterday, I'd actually got all the way down to about here. And that, as you can see, is the yellow episode that I had on the previous spreadsheet. So it's recorded, but I haven't done anything else with it yet. So in terms of once I've recorded it, then now I know all the audio purists are going to crucify me here, but I don't actually do a great deal with it once I've recorded it. I'll basically go into Audacity and what I'm doing is a playthrough. And all I'm doing in that playthrough, it'll take me about an hour and a half for a typical 50-minute episode. And I'm just pulling out content I don't want in. So I am not messing around with sound levels or anything like that beyond running a compress and running a normalize on it. And then I'm doing nothing else with it other than did they say something or I say something that I don't want released for whatever reason? If it just sounds crap or it's, they've got an opinion too far or it clashes with something. For example, I recorded one episode that had quite a few barbed comments about the Daily Mail in it for a history festival, and I took them out simply because the Daily Mail used to be a sponsor of that festival, and nothing that you pull out with that festival can have the Daily Mail in it anymore. So whether it be pro or anti, I just removed it on that basis, close that down. Once I've got that, I'm going to just export it as a WAV file. Okay, and then I'm going to put it through Auphonic. So I will take a moment to pull up my Auphonic screen. Give me a sec. And there we are, Auphonic. So those of you that have not, anybody in Mike's podcast club will have heard of Auphonic because you'll have heard me talk about it at least 3 times a month for every time that we're here. So it is an absolute godsend for editors because what it does is it does most of the work for you. So if I pay for Auphonic, so I get about 9 hours worth of upload time per month. As you can see, I've got 26 minutes left and I'm nervously waiting the next rotation of that when all my credits come back. It does have a free option. We'll give you 2 hours per month free of charge. And it's almost exactly the same service. There's a couple of major differences in that. Number one, if you pay for it, you can do bulk uploads. So if we look down the screen to all these reels that I did here, which are video, okay. Then what I did is I'd created 7 of those and I just uploaded them at the same time, and it sat there scrumbling the editing through and all the sound balancing and so forth within that. You can't do that with the free version, but you can still upload them all individually and it'll get on with it. Secondly, when you do use the free version as well, they started about a month to 6 weeks ago. They started putting a little just Auphonic jingle on the start of everything it does, which is a bit of a pain. It's easy enough to crack because all you do is just run it through Auphonic, pull down your file, and then just go back into Audacity and cut that bit out and release it. And I think they'll stop doing it at some point because nobody's going to be putting that sort of content out. They're not going to be playing the Auphonic jingle, and I think they'll realize that it's no bad idea to get rid of it.
It's just jumping in there, Paul. It's not too dear either, is it, Auphonic?
I get 9 hours a month and I pay €11 a month.
It's all right, isn't it?
It's cheaper than it's cheaper than what I use for social media scheduling, which is about 30 quid a month.
Whew.
Although, I can come on, I may do a complete other episode on Social Champ. But that's fun. So to go in, it gives you all these things that you can add in your metadata with. I mean, the first thing you want to be doing is choosing your file. I'm not going to cover all of these things because I just have them set up as a standard episode. So once I've got a preset there, a lot of the standard things that I have in there, like, artist name, what my genre is, and things like that, are the same. But to fill in all this, for anybody that was listening to, I think it was Claire that did the episode, that did the meeting on Podcasting 2.0. And she was talking about a lot of features that those of us that don't have Podcasting 2.0 engaged hosts like me find that we don't have the facility through a lot of Acast and others to be able to actually put all that stuff in. So your second option that you can, if you want to start doing these sorts of things, is to actually embed that into your sound files. And so it's been scanned and picked up when your RSS feed is being read. Apple's very big on reading metadata. So as Floyd may recall, when we were down at the Apple meeting for the IPA Awards, one of the things that they said is if you want to appear in their serial podcast chart, you need the tag serial in your metadata. Otherwise, then it's just not going to look at you for that. So I will always have like the history tag and things like that in there. Now, to fill all this in, I would stick my episode name in there, stick my track number in there, which whatever episode that I'm up to, I think I'm up to about 181 that I'm about to do, which year I've done it. Subtitle, I generally just put an alternate rage in. So it's just a one line explaining what that episode is about. Summary description, which I massively cheat because I'll go into, if I went into Riverside and go into anything that I've just recently recorded. So let's have a look at me and Ada Palmer. You can click on show notes in Riverside. Most places have something like this as well. And what I'll do is I will just copy that from there and I will paste it in there like so. Job done. It's taken me less than a minute. Same if I go back there and I go and copy the keywords, I will copy the keywords in there. And again, I am looking out for, is the word history in there in its own distinct keyword because I want to be in that chart. In this case, it's in there twice, so I can take one of those out. Yes, you are seeing the words Battle Pope in there as well. You are going to have to listen to the episode to see the joys of that. Then chapters, if you want to put all your chapters in, and I used to put in fact, the first time that I spoke to Charles and Vic about doing this, I was actually independently putting all my chapters in. And you can just add a, add a row, add your timestamp and so forth. What I tend to do now, though, is I do it via a file. So if I go into, get me into an episode, and I think I've just crashed my computer. So if I get into a file that I recently done, so let's have a look at Ada Palmer's. Okay, I've got a text file, chapters, which I'll tell you how you get those a little later on when I come around to doing the things such as headliner, but you can get these from Riverside as well. And I will just put that text file and in there it all goes. Save it as an MP3. And then you get to the interesting bit. So here is where it's doing all your sound check.
Before we get to the interesting bit, let's have a little check about metadata, shall we? Do you have to put all this in? Why are you putting all this in?
I'm putting all this in because it helps SEO.
Right.
Not as much as it used to do. So there used to be a big thing of always, fill every web page, blog post and things that you do filled with metadata because that's how you appear on search engines. That's how you appear on Google. The world is a bit different now, but metadata is still important because search engines, and bear in mind, every podcast provider is at its core still a search engine.
Mm.
So they're going to be using a lot of different techniques. You want to be getting as many keywords, relevant keywords as you possibly can, because it just improves your chances of getting up towards the top or being that match that people are looking for. So if they're looking for history podcasts, then you want to have that history tag within there. Like I say, Apple's very keen on metadata. Spotify's been very quiet about whether it is or whether it isn't. But if you want to be creeping up the charts, then metadata is going to be important because Apple's the big chart that you're likely to get into.
And layman's terms, where is this metadata? Where is it saved? Where is it?
This is actually going to be saved within the MP3 file that you are uploading. Okay, so whenever you put on an MP3 player, okay, and you see that it brings up on your car stereo that this is now REM, monster album, what's the frequency, Kenneth, track title, and so forth. That's all coming from metadata in the MP3 file. And this is exactly the same thing.
Brill. Okay, that makes sense. I love it when that happens.
The more of this sort of stuff you can put in, the better. Not all of it is going to be game changing, but it doesn't take long to put it in. And if somebody looks for it, you want to be on the receiving end of them finding it.
Mm-hmm. So Auphonic's not just about the metadata. You can get other programs or things to help you. But this is, you're gonna go into the sex of it now about Auphonic.
Yeah. Well, I would say just a final bit on metadata is if you don't want to do it through Auphonic or anything else like that, you can actually individually do it within the properties of your own MP3 file on standard Windows. It's in there. You just select properties and it gives you a whole load of options that you could just type stuff in. This is just a This is just a means for me to do it while I'm doing other
Yeah.
things.
And there's other ways, like we've got in the chat here. You could do it in your DAW, you can do it in your editing software. And Dave said you could use Media Monkey as well. Right, sorry, I keep
Exactly.
pecking your head.
So this bit here is where it's going to do your sound. Okay, so it's got an adaptive leveler. It's going to get rid of a lot of background noise. It's going to get rid of, it's going to balance all your volumes for you. Loudness normalization. It's going to equalize volumes between guests as much as it can. And noise reduction. This is joyous. Okay, because this is where you have that annoying thing where your phone pings in the background or your guest has a motorbike or the police helicopter fly past their house in the middle of a recording. This will actually do exactly what it says on the tin: keep speech and music and remove everything else. And it really does. If you want to remove music as well, because sometimes I do, you've got speech isolation option. Now, I used this when I recorded at a festival because every so often throughout that interview, a freaking Tudor band kicked off outside the tent that was just drowning everything out. Auphonic got rid of it. And it will remove, like I say, reverb, it will remove background noise, it will remove breath noises, silences of more than a second, and filler words. And it is really good on the filler words. I've actually got a little demonstration of it if I can find the right window. So hopefully you'll be able to hear this. So first of all, this is 20 seconds extract of some of the worst client background that I've ever had. So here goes. Tell me if you can hear it.
This notion that because Southern Ireland were neutral during the Second World War, that we were all a bunch of drunken, potato-eating, anti-Semites, Nazi supporters, Nazi sympathisers, whatever you want to call us.
And there you go. So that was Dr. Joseph Quinn of the Their Finest Hour Foundation doing his rage about the attitudes towards Irish neutrality in the Second World War. Now, I swear to you, all I have done with that sound file is put it through Auphonic on those settings. Here's the difference.
This notion that because Southern Ireland were neutral during the Second World War, that we were all a bunch of drunken, potato-eating, anti-Semites, Nazi supporters, Nazi sympathisers, whatever you want to call us.
There you go. The erms, the breath noises, all of that echo and reverb is just gone. And that basically took, for an entire episode that was an hour and 10 minutes, that from uploading it to Auphonic to downloading it from Auphonic took less than 15 minutes. You know, so much fanning about that I don't even know how to do has just been done by Auphonic. So like I say, you can do it for free. I do personally think that they are worth paying. So I download that as my MP3 and then that's good. Yeah, that's good to go. So I'm going to start uploading it to various places. I'm going to upload it to Acast, then going to upload it to Apple Podcasts for the subscriptions. I'm going to upload it to Patreon for my subscribers because Acast doesn't give me an ad-free RSS feed, so I have to do that individually. I may switch to somebody who does at some point. I'm also going to upload it to YouTube via Headliner. So let me just get onto Headliner, if I can get that right. So Headliner, if you've not come across Headliner before, it is a thing that is so useful it hurts. There is a load you can do with it. There are softwares and services out there that do each thing better. But if you are looking for somewhere that you can go to do a whole load of stuff, Headliner will do it well. So one of the first things that I'm going to do is I'm going to go for Eddie here, which is transcribe or audio or video. So basically you go into there, get a single transcription and upload from your computer. I'm not going to upload it now because it'll just take too long to do so. But there you go. And what it do, it will churn away for approximately 20 minutes for a 1 hour episode, and it will give you a transcript of the episode. And it's not a bad transcript. So if I go into Alexandra Sills here, then it will come up with a title for you. In fact, it'll give you a choice of 5 titles. You don't have to elect any of them. You can type your own over. If you want clips, and I'll come to audiograms in a minute, but it will find 20 clips of about a minute in length, highlight them for you there if you're wanting to go into quotes. But I want to draw your attention here to the promo pack, okay? And it does this for every episode that you upload. So it take about 5 or 10 minutes to come up with after it's finished transcribing. And then you click on that, and what you get is show notes, and the show notes are really good. Particularly the more you use it as well, because you can ask it to adjust. So change its tone, its formality, and it will learn what you like. And it picks up on a lot of the phrases that appear regularly in your recordings. So for me, I'm always saying, oh, you can follow the Rage on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at History Rage. So it puts them in the show notes with links to them accordingly. Where it can, it will link to the social media of the guest if I've given it out. It's not always great at hearing what they are. Again, it's got my Patreon link in there should people want to click in from the show notes. I usually add a little bit more in there as well, but that is a really good kind of jumping off point for my show notes. I'm not particularly a purist about show notes. I don't think you need to go into graphic detail. I don't believe that a great many people actually read them. But again, keywords in there for when things want to be brought up. So if people go onto a podcast app and search for a guest, then of course my podcast is going to come up. But it doesn't do show notes as well. If you come down here, this is another place you can get keywords from. It will pull quotes and social media out of your interview. So quotes from each of us there, because I like to do pull quotes for my social media, and it will give you a basic social media post for 6 main platforms. If you really want to go down that route, and I don't, but it will also do you a so references where here we are, newsletter entry and blog post. Now the blog posts for me, they do read a little bit too much like AI wrote them. So I tend not to use them, but I will say one thing for Headliner is they're improving, and they have a really good relationship with talking to everybody who uses them to say, what do you want to see next, or what would you rather we didn't do? Although the last time that we had that, pretty much everybody says stop doing the AI cover art, and they still haven't. Now that's Headliner Eddie. Okay, if I just go back, you can create audiograms with this. Okay, so as I mentioned, where you've got your title. Okay, if I go in there and let's pick a clip. Okay, so just go down, first clip there, right click, no, sorry, highlight it and click that. It will now prepare that as an audiogram video clip. Take a little moment, choose your templates. I'm not going to go into the graphics of it kind of quite now, but you would essentially choose a template and then you can replace all the various parts of that template. And it works very similar to Canva. It's not got as many bells and whistles on it as Canva, but if you want to do it quickly, then you can go through your transcript, highlight areas and just quote those pieces within there. And then there's clip and caption. So this one here. Now, I click that and that involves uploading and so forth, which I'm not going to do now. But in true Blue Peter style, here is one I prepared earlier. So if I go down to Bettina Anton and I clicked into that. No. So here it should load that. Yeah. And it will pick you out 10 clips of around about 90 seconds in length out of a video episode that you've put up, and I usually go through and pick the best 7. Now, sometimes there are dramatic silences in there, as you can see with this one, because basically what I've uploaded there is the video feed from just Bettina's channel. I'm not interested in having my face on the camera on an Instagram reel. So some of those will be unsuitable for use, but like I say, I've got 10 there and I'm using the best 7. And then just to kind of follow on from that, this week I subscribed to Opus Clips, and what Opus Clips will do is pick you 31 clips of an episode over timescales that you chose. You can brand them, you can edit them just like you will in Canva, but it orders them with a percentage rating in order of what's likely to do well on social media. And that is an absolute joy for me. So I've only just started out with that, but I will feed back on Opus Clips later and let you know if it's really worth it. So really, Headliner is a one-stop shop. Now, it does have a free version that you can do a certain amount of, and it's been a long time since I've used the free version. Anybody that's got a paid for Acast host, Headliner comes free with it. So you can use it through that. So if you're on Acast and you are paying for Acast, you're not just using the Acast free version, this comes with it. Use it. It will save you so much time. And then broadly, once I've done that, sort of at that point, I've got hopefully 6 quotes. I've got hopefully 7 clips and things like that. Notice that the clips gave you a transcript of each clip as well. So I can just copy that out, for example, and come on, copy that out, for example, and then I'm going to turn to ChatGPT to fill in the gaps. So again, if I could just move that out of the way. So what I've got then is, and the OCDers amongst you are not going to be happy with this, but this is basically my complete document of all the ChatGPT prompts that I'm ever going to use as I go through. So if, for example, I've created those, let's take a reel there. Okay, so I've put in my summary for a particular episode. Okay, and maybe I've put in the takeaways that Riverside gave me as well. So that gives me an outline look of the episode. Then I've got, this is my main prompt. So with the theme of the transcript in mind, because I've uploaded my transcript to ChatGPT, write me 6 engaging tweets, less than 250 characters, which use the quotes listed below as a theme for each tweet. Each tweet must refer to the podcast episode and include the guest's name and relevant popular hashtags. I don't want the actual quote featured. Don't use the phrase on our podcast or in this episode. And then I'll list my quotes. And so if I just actually put that into ChatGPT, hopefully it's behaving. One of the downsides I've found with ChatGPT, it is really useful, and I am a believer that AI is a solution, not a problem. But sometimes it just gets its arse on and decides it's going to do what it wants to do rather than what you've been training it to do. And there's no way around that other than swear loudly at it, I find does help. If you write things in big capitals with a lot of expletives, it does actually change its behavior. But if I just copy that into there, that'll churn away. And it is referring to my transcript throughout. Okay, it's looking at the things that I've put actually in that podcast episode and is just creating me my social media posts for a week for that episode. I use AI an awful lot. So if I'm looking at creating questions for a guest, publishers have a tendency to say, we want to get this guest on, it's going to be raging about this, and here is a press release for the book. Now, I usually don't have time to read the book. So what I would do at that point is I will copy the press release into there and say, will you write me 10 questions that I can ask for this? Or possibly I will say, will you write me 20 questions that I can ask this guest? At which point I'll pick the best 6 that I most want to ask at that point. Or I will already have questions that I want to ask in there. It will fill in the gaps of 3 or so. You know, it's by no means completely replacing the podcaster at all. And then I will basically upload I will copy all of those tweets along with pretty much everything else into the other giant Word document, which is my entire social media posts for a week. And I will do that on a Monday evening once I've got the pod follow link for the episode that I've received. So I'll do Monday on Monday morning, and then Monday evening once I've finished work, I post the rest of the week, and then I don't really need to go near social media again, apart from to interact with interesting things that I've seen on Twitter and to share. And that, in a nutshell, is how I do it. So, but some people out there are going to find that you've got quicker ways of doing it, and there are quicker ways of doing it, or there's ways that you prefer to do it. And this is by no means an instruction to say you must do it this way. Vic asked the question, how do I get so far ahead? The first is just by using this workflow system, and where I can cut a corner that doesn't cut quality, I do. And the second is I'm a total and utter workaholic. So whenever I've got my wife out of the house, such as tonight, I will be doing podcast stuff. I'm at that stage now where I've almost got 2 full-time jobs. So that's how I get that far ahead. But you can equally use this for people who want to stay exactly where they are, but would just like more time with their partner or their cat or their air fryer, or their lampshades. Yeah. So whatever you wish to spend that time doing, go for it. But that's essentially how I did it.
I think I've got 2 questions for you actually. The first one is, what has those automations, what impact has that had on your podcast? So are you, where, you don't have to reveal any numbers, but how much success are you having, Paul?
Well, one of the things it's done is allow me to do more. Okay, so I've been able to go from frantically trying to get out 1 episode a week to actually easily being able to get out 2 episodes a week. So I've been able to double my output. It's enabled me to do things like the second history festival that I went to. Kind of using this, I managed to record an episode at 10 o'clock in the morning with Estelle Perronc and release it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It completely all done. And now I did work at it flat out, even to the point of telling Max Hastings that I didn't have time to talk to him. But that was how I did it. So it's allowed me to do more stuff. And the more content that you put out, the more downloads you're going to get. It's not a direct double. If you put out 2 episodes in a week, you're not going to double your listenership, but you'll probably increase your listenership by 50% and above. So it's helped in that way.
But that's also had a knock-on effect because you serve ads, don't you, on your podcast?
Yeah. And of course, more downloads is more ads, is more money. And I'm a 51-year-old Yorkshireman. I love 3 things in the world, which is my wife, breakfast foods, and money.
Is it gravy on there? Surely.
No, you don't put gravy on breakfast foods. Take the girl out of Manchester, can't you?
And my second question before I'm going to nip to someone else is, how much would you say you spend on all those things a month?
A month. So let's go through the price list. It costs me about 10 quid a month for Acast to host, and Headliner comes free with it. I spend £11 a month, thereabouts, on Auphonic. I spend about a similar amount. I think it's probably somewhere in the region of about £12, £13 a month on Opus Clips, but I don't know how worthwhile that is yet. I'm about to find that out. I spend about £30 a month on Social Champ to schedule all the social media posts across many different places. And just while I'm on the subject of the social media posts, I've just seen the question that's cropped up in the chat, so I might just answer it. What benefit do I get from social media? Is in terms of, am I getting click-throughs from it? Then yes, I am. Whether or not they're turning into actual listens and downloads is very difficult to ascertain with the kind of feedback that we get via podcasts. But what it does do is it gives you a kind of brand recognition, and it gives you a presence, and it means there are a lot of people out there that will look at that and it just keeps putting the name History Rage podcast into their memory, so that when I go to a history festival, I'll be running into people that, oh, you are the History Rage guy. Oh, yes, I have heard of you. I've got a live stage show coming up at the next Chalk Festival. That's going to be filmed. I'm not an unknown brand to that history community now, even if they haven't listened to the podcast themselves. So I do believe that social media is important, and also it's free. So why wouldn't you? But it isn't the be all and end all. And I don't think you're going to kill it if you don't have social media, because most people who find a podcast do not find it through a social media advert or a social media post. They find it through a recommendation, or they find it by looking on Spotify or Apple. But just getting that brand out there and constant does help you build that community that we keep banging on that podcasting's all about.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna hold fire on you there for a minute, Paul, and I'm
Okay.
I'm not quickly gonna come to you, but we're gonna do questions afterwards. But I want to go to someone else who is a podcasting nutcase like you. I couldn't think of a better word then. Podcasting nutcase like you, Paul. Dave Campbell, Canada Dave. He's got 9 podcasts. 9 podcasts. And some of those podcasts are you releasing more than one episode a week on there. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah, I'm doing about 6 to 10 episodes a week right now. Just don't do that at home, anyone. Please don't. Please.
And Dave, you have got a full-time job.
I do. I work a full-time overnight job and do podcasting during the day. Similar
And you
to
have
Paul,
a family and animals to look after as well.
I have animals. My kids are all grown up and out of the house. And similar to Paul, every time my partner leaves the house, I'm podcasting. So I'm with Paul on that one for sure.
So what's your secret?
My secret is organization, a lot of paper. I'm an old guy. I like paper. It helps me to stay organized. I like to show this to people once in a while. One of my shows is called Living the Next Chapter. This is 570 episodes of that podcast alone. And that's kind of how I track everything. For me, I'm a paper and pen guy. And I use some automation tools. But for me, I've got it down to a science now. So again, I wouldn't tell anyone you need to do anything close to this amount of podcasts. And I would do my podcast if I had one. If I had two, like Paul, I would do them way better than I am currently. I am spread pretty thin. But for me, I have so many interests that draws me to do more than I probably should. So I'm all in on podcasting. And so I have a dad podcast, an author podcast, 2 podcasts about podcasting, and on and on and on and on. So I'm just chasing all my whimsy all at once. It's great.
Without giving too much of the secret sauce away, then you said the key to all that is automation. So we've spoke before, and I've been on your podcast before, and you said while you're interviewing me for one of your podcasts, you were saying I've got something running in the background. So your plate spinning, automation plate spinning. So by the time you'd finished talking to me, something had been edited.
Yeah, I was editing during Paul's presentation. I have him on one screen and I'm on another screen and going back and forth and participating in what Paul's doing. I love how Paul approaches his podcast. Lots to learn from other podcasters. Again, another reason why I like this club and getting together is you're going to pick up something from somebody that you never even thought of. You're like, wait a minute, why am I doing it this way and doing 10 times the work? Where here's Paul showing his amazing cheats and tricks and things that he does. You can learn so much, right? So I love that.
Like any great podcaster, then tell me what's your number one tool then that you use, that you swear by, that's helping you balance these 9 podcasts?
Well, one thing I like to use, I use Audacity, just like Paul was mentioning. In Audacity, you can create what would be similar to Microsoft Macro, which is a set of steps that happen in order, and you do them on repetition. So every time you do these things, you do A, B, C, D, and E every time. So I set up in Audacity a set of macros that allow me to go grab a coffee or fish and chips, as I hear here on the podcast club. I get to go do something else while my computer's doing something for me. So I could be answering emails, I can be doing all this other stuff in the background, and there's something else happening at all times. So it's not like I'm just focused on one thing. I'm able to usually balance at least 2 or 3 other things are happening in real time while I'm focused on one task. So that makes my job easier. And again, it's just repetition and finding the little things and just trying to hone in on those help you in little pieces will help you to do big things.
Charles is probably the same, and I know I speak to a lot of wannabe podcasters and actual podcasters who are struggling to keep up. What would be your number one bit of advice for someone that's going, I can't keep up with what I'm doing?
Uh, Learn, be aware of these tools. Like Paul showed us so many great different tools that maybe some of the people here have never tried or never thought about. I think some people get a little nervous around technology, but technology, if used correctly, is going to help you and it's going to give you the space to do other things. And then if you don't have time to do all these things and you don't feel like you can invest the way Paul's doing his show, then maybe hiring somebody to do something else to give you freedom to do the thing. So simple for me, I could be outside mowing my grass in my yard today, or I could hire somebody to do that, which gives me time back to do something else. It could be something as simple as that, allows you to have time back in your calendar. So look at your calendar for the week and start axing out all of the things that don't bring value to you. I used to love watching TV, Vic. I was like a TV guy. I would like just like dive into Netflix and live there. Now I'm down to like an hour a week. And
Wow.
I feel like I'm getting nervous sitting in front of a TV going, like Paul, I could be doing podcasting right now, right? And I get a little bit like, I gotta go. So I find that I'm loving what's happening in podcasting and meeting great people. All of these things work together. So find little areas you can shave off time, hire somebody to help you if it's podcasting or something related to your regular life and what you're doing, but create space for yourself. And don't be hard on yourself. If you can't do it all, do what you can.
What a
Yeah.
lovely nugget of advice to land on there from Dave.
Could I just second that as well
Yes.
with from it's like never it is a lot of work, and any new podcaster that's watching this on YouTube or anything like that, it's like never underestimate the sheer amount of work that running a podcast is, and God knows the sheer amount of work that's running 9 podcasts is. And I'm going to echo a lot of what Dave said there. I mean, I've had an audiogram for YouTube going on in the background while I've done this presentation. You multitask, but if you're out there and you're thinking, I'm struggling to keep up. I can't get on top of this. And you're not in a position where you can either invest the money on tools that will do it for you or, axe things out. There's no shame in just going, no, actually, I can't put out a weekly episode. I'm going to put out a fortnightly episode. I'm going to do what I can, because what you want to do is you want to give out a product that is good. And if you cannot do that in the time that you want to do it, then you're going to need to take longer to do it. And that's just a simple fact. And there is nothing wrong with that at all.
Hmm. And of course, we have many thousands of podcasters who might be mothers, full-time workers. So a lot of the tools you've shared today are great for cutting time off things when you've got other things, other responsibilities. And people might not be in a place of privilege to pay for things, but a lot of the things you've talked about do have free trials, or like Auphonic, for example, you can have 2 hours free. Headliner has a limited number of free things you can have per month as well. So if we're not privileged enough to have that spare money, then there's free options available as well. Paul, we have a couple of questions that I want to just ask you. And Dave, feel free to put in your pennies worth as well. Kevin asks, it's about ChatGPT. I don't know what he means by this, but you'll know. Have you ever had any hallucinations? Not you. Have you had any hallucinations that have appeared based on the questions and using the book review as your ChatGPT prompt to get the question?
By hallucinations, I'm assuming that you mean that ChatGPT has just gone completely down the wrong rabbit hole. And
Is that what you mean, Kevin?
I use it a lot, lots of AI, and but the generative stuff can throw you back information that's not right. So you'll see lots of websites. I see some about podcasting where it's got some details about how to podcast, and you read it and go, "That's not right. That's clearly Chat GPT." So, do you ever have that with the books you put in? The review, and then it comes back. I wonder
Um,
about the sort of, the worry about that.
no, I don't, because and there's two reasons that I've got that kind of safeguard against that. Number one, I am literally just copying in the press release that I'm actually sent by the publisher. So that's already in kind of like simplistic bullet point. This is what this book's about in about 5 short, snappy paragraphs. There's not a lot in there that ChatGPT needs to interpret or kind of get wrong. I'm also just asking it to create questions. So it gives me a list of 20 questions. Now, some of those questions are not going to make sense, and I'm just going to easily dismiss them. I would say one of the key messages with my use of AI, particularly with ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is not brilliant, it's artificial general intelligence, but everybody that's sat watching this is more intelligent than ChatGPT is. I'm just using it to do things quickly that would take me a while to do. So I'm always going to be checking that what it's doing is actually what what I want. And I always go for that. Give me 20 questions and I'm going to pick 6 of them. I'm not going to base my entire interview around it, but no, it's given the information that I feed it, and I've got it pretty well trained by now as well because I've been using it for so long. It's okay. There's probably better out there, but I'd have to train that, and I can't be bothered. I haven't got the time.
For more about ChatGPT and podcasting, you can see our previous talk with Steph Fuccio, and that's on our YouTube channel. Which if you're watching on YouTube now, you can just go whoop whoop and find that as well. That's like a really deep dive, and I hate that phrase. I'm going to say it again. This is the last time I'm ever going to say it in my life. It's a deep dive into podcasting and ChatGPT. Final question from Eric for you there, Paul, is how about after episodes are released? Besides socials, what else do you do? How do you use the analytics?
Mostly to depress myself. Is the answer to that. 'Cause it never does as well as I really want it to, and sometimes it will just come as a surprise. Yeah, I will keep an eye on it, but I'm not looking at what's going on after something is released because it's just so wildly outside my control. It really is, and there are things that will impact an episode. I mean, I'm in the history community, so if I put out an episode about Victorian, it's going to do about half as well as an episode about the Second World War. If I put out an episode of somebody who's not a big name historian but has got a lot of friends in that community, it's going to do better than some of my big name historians that I thought were going to absolutely break the bank. So I tend not to really pay that much attention to it. I do keep a graph of like episode performance in the first week, just so that I can see where my peaks and troughs are, and that helps me identify who was a guest that did well, and I might get them back. That would be a good idea. But mostly, I have a report that I run that was like the monthly downloads, and all I'm looking for out of that is I look at the month that I've just done. Did I have more downloads than I did in the same month last year? And that is it. Marathon, not a sprint, that old cliche, but cliches are there for a reason. It will slowly increase over time as your back catalogue increases and your brand gets wider. So that's really all I'm doing is like, have I done better than I did 12 months ago? That's all the attention that I really pay. The only time that I really, really pay attention to what happens after I release is there was one instance where I uploaded and Acast didn't release. And when I checked my stats at like 9 o'clock the following morning, I'd had 0 on it, which caused me to send some very angry letters to Acast.
Fair enough. I think we're going to draw that to a close. That has been utterly fascinating. And what I really love about Mike's Podcast Club is in the chat, which you can't see on YouTube right now, is that people have been sharing the other tools that they use, the free tools they use. We've got someone arranging a meetup to talk about Audacity macros. I mean, I couldn't think of a more geeky meetup. Invite me along to that one, guys. That sounds riveting. And yeah, just love it. You've been so gracious, like I said at the beginning, Paul, and even more gracious now. And thank you, Dave, for giving me a little peek under your curtain as well. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Paul? How can we listen to History Rage? My goodness.
Well, you can listen to History Rage using the Time or phrase wherever you get your podcasts. Just go on and search for History Rage. And there's a new episode out every Monday. I think the next episode that I've got coming out is that medieval women do actually have agency and independence and aren't just stay-at-home moms. So each episode just deals with the particular pet peeve of that historian, the historic myth that they would deeply like to debunk. So this week's episode at time of recording there is a lot more to World War II civil defence than just putting lights out. It's a thumping good listen and I would recommend it. But every Monday, just find History Rage, subscribe, follow, download, and make me a happy man.
And that's what we want. Dave, I'm going to come to you just quickly. How can we find out about all those, was it 3,600 podcasts you've got?
Well, I'm being asked in the chat if I'm actually a real person or an AI. No, I am a real. My wife has proof. She has a list of all the things I've done wrong. So if you want that list, I can obviously send that to you.
That's a podcast. That is a podcast incoming.
Yeah, no, I just want to say thanks to Paul. That was really great. I was really anticipating today and having him walk us through this. Again, there's so much to learn from each other, and I just love this group. Yeah, for me, from one of my shows, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Living the Next Chapter author podcast, 557 episodes in 3 years. So we're just chugging through here and some pretty amazing stories from authors around the world. So if you love books, you want to meet a great author, come check out livingthenextchapter.com.
Thank you so much, Dave. Right. That has been the end of Mike's Podcast Club for the special May edition. In fact, let's cut that out for the YouTube. Sorry, Charles. More work for you to do. Thanks for tuning in to Mike's Podcast Club. Big thanks to Paul and Dave for sharing their workflow secrets. So much good stuff. And if you want to learn more good stuff about podcasting, come to Mike's Podcast Club. We're online every month. The second Wednesday of every month, we're live on Zoom. Just join us at meetup.com/MikePod. Thank you very much.